So every good football team needs a top penalty taker, but who would I rank as the best and worst penalty takers in the Championship? Let's talk about it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are going to be diving into this tier list where I'm going to be ranking each Championship club's penalty taker by the following categories. The bottom category is he's definitely missing. I've got no confidence in this player stepping up to the spot. The category above that we've got I'm nervous, so they might hit it in the back of the net, but at the same time my heart's pounding as they're stepping up. Category above that is I'm 50-50 on whether they're scoring or not. I'm confident that they're putting it into the back of the net, and the top category is I'm putting my house on this guy scoring. I want to know the penalty taker from your club. Which category right there would you yourselves place them into? We've got all the Championship clubs here which we're going to be taking into consideration. The majority of teams have been awarded at least one penalty this season, although there are a few who unfortunately so haven't got any. But without any further ado, let's jump into it. And starting out with Coventry's Matty Godden, he's scored at quite an unbelievable rate so far this season in terms of the minutes that he's played and the goals he's put away and the efficiency. He's gone ahead and done that. If we look at his penalty record throughout his career, it's actually really good. He scored 16 penalties and only missed one, which is absolutely fabulous. For Coventry, he scored absolutely every one of the penalties he's gone ahead and taken, and for that reason I think I'm going to have to put him in the top category. I've put my house on him scoring. He's not quite taken as many penalties as some of the other players that we're probably going to put in that top category, but track record speaks for itself. I have to put him into that top category. Andre Gray, now he's quite an interesting one really. Only missed the 2 penalties throughout his career, scored 9. I actually saw him put away a penalty at the weekend against my side, North End, and he did look fairly confident stepping up to the spot. So for Andre Gray, while he may no longer be, that striker that he once was in years gone by, I would be pretty confident with him stepping up to the penalty spot. I can't lie about that. Collin Grant, next up, we're looking at his penalty record here. He's scored 13 penalties throughout his career, and he's missed 3. Has actually missed one this season against Millwall and Bartosz Białkowski, but scored 3 of the other penalties he's went ahead and taken. Collin Grant, really efficient finisher when it comes to one-on-one chances and things like that, and despite missing 3, I would be pretty confident with him stepping up from the penalty spot. I wouldn't quite place him in that top category with the elite penalty takers in the Championship, but I'd at least be confident with him stepping up. Next up then for Preston's Daniel Johnson, and this guy's track record speaks for itself. 23 penalties scored, just 2 of them missed, and one of those was in a youth game. So the only penalty he's actually missed in his sort of professional career was against Reading in the 20/21 season. All other of his 23 penalties have been dispatched, and for me personally, I think he's the best penalty taker in the Championship. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Preston fan, but the guy just doesn't miss. He has got ice running through his veins. He does a little bit of a shuffle on the run-up, slows down a little bit, waits for the keeper to sort of commit either way, but I'm putting my house on him scoring, and I'm putting him at the top of that category. For me personally, best penalty taker in the league, bar none. Next up then for Swansea's Joel Pereira. Now, this one is a tough one to rank really. First of all, because Swansea haven't been awarded the penalty this season, so we've not seen any examples of any of their players actually taking a penalty. Last season they had AU on penalty duty, so he's no longer there. And if we look at his scoring record throughout his career, most of these are either in sort of international friendlies or youth matches, so we don't really have a great understanding of what sort of penalty taker he'll actually be. So I'm going to put him in the 50-50 category because he's just not got much of a track record with taking penalties. He does score at a really efficient rate though. He's one of the best finishers in the league this season, so going off that I'd be pretty confident, but because we've just not really seen him take too many penalties, I'd say I'm 50-50 if Joel Pereira was to step up from the spot. Next then for Lewis Baker, who's dispatched both of his penalties for Stoke so far this season. Only missed 2 penalties throughout his career, and he has scored the other 19, so really quite a stellar penalty record, although it does have to be said that the majority of penalties that he has scored here, at the bottom of page 1 going into page 2, were in sort of youth matches and things like that, so that does need to be taken into consideration. However, I would say that I'm confident with Lewis Baker stepping up to the spot. Maybe not put my house on him scoring because he's not had that track record, in the EFL as of yet, with putting them away consistently, but I'm confident with him stepping up from the spot, no doubt about that. Inside the box, outside the box, yeah, he's a real threat from those situations. Next up then to Blackpool's Gary Madine. Now, to be fair to him, he scored both of his penalties so far this season for Blackpool, but he's got a really quite average penalty record throughout his career, I have to say. Total penalties scored 7, total penalties missed 6, which is the worst hit ratio we've seen so far this season. He's not missed a penalty since the 17-18 season, to be fair to him, but with that sort of track record, I have to say I'd be nervous with him stepping up to the spot. I'm not going to put him in that bottom category because he has put both of them away that he's taken this season, but with those misses in the back of my mind, I'm nervous if he's stepping up to the spot, to be honest. Next up then for Cardiff's Joe Rowles. Cardiff, I think another one of those sides who have not actually been awarded a penalty throughout this season. In terms of his penalty record throughout his career, he's scored 11 and gone ahead and missed 3, so a fairly decent penalty record. Especially considering the 3 that he's missed were against top goalkeepers in Sonny Dieng, Lucas Fabianski and Angus Gunn. So for Joe Rowles, I'm confident and 50-50 for him, really. Scored 11, missed 3. I think I put him into 50-50 with Joe Rowles just because we've not seen him take a penalty this season and he's not all too fresh in my mind in terms of that penalty record. Next up then, and I have put 2 Birmingham players in here because how could I not involve both of these, but Troy Deeney first of all. I think I'm going to have to put him in that top category, put my house on him scoring. Now, to be fair, Troy Deeney has missed more penalties throughout his career than I thought he had. He scored 38 and he has missed 6, but I mean, it's still a stellar record, putting 38 penalties away. The thing with Troy Deeney is, if he comes up against like Manuel Neuer, say, I think Neuer's got it in him to go ahead and stop a Troy Deeney penalty because you know exactly what he's going to do. He's just going to blast it down the middle as hard as he can. But the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of championship goalkeepers can't get anywhere near a Troy Deeney bullet penalty. So I'm putting my house on him scoring, no questions asked about that. And the same goes for Lyle Taylor. Birmingham arguably have 2 of the best penalty takers in the league. I'll probably put Lyle Taylor maybe his second best, maybe put Deeney there above Matty Godden, and that's the sort of standing order. But Lyle Taylor, another one, I didn't realise just how many penalties he's actually missed. He's missed 8 penalties throughout his career, which was more than I thought, but scored 24, and since he's been doing this sort of like slow, cool walking run up, the guy's got ice running through his veins, and yeah, no questions asked. I'm putting my house on him putting it into the back of the net. Next then for Mitrovic. I'm not going to put him into the top category, Mitrovic. I'm going to put him into, I'm confident, I think. He's put goals away at a ridiculous rate throughout this season, but Mitrovic, another one of those players with quite a deceiving penalty record. He's scored 21, but he has missed 8 throughout his career, including one this season against Stoke. But listen, Mitrovic scores goals for fun, doesn't he? If there's one person that knows where the back of the net is, it is this guy, so I am still confident with him stepping up to the spot. Next up then for Bristol City's Chris Martin, bit of an icon of the Championship really. He's part of the furniture in the EFL, isn't he? Let's have a look at his penalty record. So, scored this season for Bristol City against Coventry, scored 18 penalties throughout his career, but has missed 9, so not a guarantee from the spot. I think I'm a bit 50-50, with Chris Martin stepping up to the penalty spot. Am I confident or am I 50-50? No, I've got a bit of a doubt in my head, I think, with Chris Martin. 9 misses throughout his career from the spot. I'm 50-50 with him, to be honest. Next then for Malky Wilshires, who hasn't actually missed a penalty, which speaks for itself, although the sample size is incredibly small for Malky Wilshires. He scored each of the 3 penalties that he took for Hull last season, albeit all of them were, in League One. So if he was to take a penalty this season in the Championship, would be a little bit more pressure on it, and against, theoretically a better goalkeeper as well. But that track record speaks for itself, so I'd be confident with him stepping up. The only reason I'm not putting him in that top category is because he doesn't quite have the track record that a few of these players have in this top tier. After that, for Reading's Lucas Chow. Now, I've got to be honest, looking at his penalty record, it doesn't make for great reading. I have seen him miss a penalty at Deepdale as well against Daniel Everson. 4 penalties scored, 3 penalties missed throughout his career. Lucas Giles, one of my favourite strikers in the Championship, but from the penalty spot, I've got to be honest, I'd be nervous with him stepping up if I was a Reading fan. Collin Woodrow, top penalty taker, no doubt in that. 16 penalties scored, just 2 penalties missed. Only missed one of the penalties he's ever taken for Barnsley. And the rest, as you can see there, all confidently dispatched away. I'm going to put Woodrow at the very top of I'm confident. I think he's knocking on the door, maybe, for me putting my house on him scoring, but he's not quite there yet. But I am confident with Woodrow stepping up for a penalty. I can't lie about that. Tom Lawrence only just really been given the responsibility as Derby's main penalty taker. Scored each of them that he's taken so far this season. Only missed one, albeit we're working with a fairly small sample size for Tom Lawrence. But I'd still say that I'm confident with him putting the ball in the back of the net from the penalty spot. After that, for Johnson, Clark Harris scored 24 penalties throughout his career, but does have 6 misses in there. I'd say I'm fairly confident in him sticking it into the back of the net, though he's dispatched all the penalties that he's taken this season. And he's taken quite a few, to be fair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 penalties he's taken this season. All have been put away. Yeah, I'm confident with him hitting the back of the net, no doubting about that. Tom Solanke, alongside Mitrovic, been one of the best strikers in the league this season. If you look at his penalty record, scored 8, missed 1. It's difficult with Solanke because he's taken 3 penalties this season. He scored 2 of them and he has missed 1. Obviously, looking at some of these sort of coming from youth football and things like that, they're harder to take into consideration. 2-to-1 ratio. Do you know what? With Solanke, I'm a little bit 50-50 on, if I'm completely honest. Doesn't have the greatest sample size of penalties to fall back on, really. And with that miss at Blackpool earlier in the season, I'm a little bit 50-50 on Solanke. Bournemouth fans, what do you think of that? Let me know down below. Next up then to Danny Ward, and I mean, this penalty record right here, I think sums up where Danny Ward might be going. He missed the only penalty that he's taken this season, and as we can see here, hasn't exactly been prolific from the penalty spot throughout his career. I think it was Huddersfield last season as well who had a real problem with anyone finding the back of the net from the penalty spot. So for me, sorry to Danny Ward, but I've got to put him in that bottom category. His track record speaks for itself. He's definitely missing for me. Next then for Lewis Grabban, all-time Championship great in terms of strikers. Penalty record makes for interesting reading though. 33 penalties scored, but 10 penalty misses. And the thing to take into consideration here is there are a fair few misses for Nottingham Forest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 misses from the penalty spot since going over to Nottingham Forest. He's a bit of a 50-50 ratio here with me, I think, to be honest. Me personally, this penalty record looks like in his younger years he was, efficiently putting them away without any problems. But as he's got on a little bit later, he's become a little bit more 50-50. So I think for me personally, Lewis Grabban stepping up to the spot, I'm not nervous, but I am 50-50 on whether he's going to find the back of the net or not. Now this one's quite topical because Elijah Adebayo did unfortunately miss a penalty in the most recent Championship game week we had against Huddersfield. Wasn't on target, and to be honest, his penalty record isn't great overall. 6 scored, 4 misses, 2 of those misses coming this season for Luton as well. So I'd have to say that I'm nervous if I was a Luton fan and Adebayo was stepping up to the spot. I'm not as confident as I would be in the players that are placed above him here. Next up then to Championship royalty in Billy Sharp, the Championship's all-time top goal scorer. 34 penalties scored and 9 misses. So to be honest, a fairly similar penalty record to what we saw with Lewis Grabban. But what I think differentiates Billy Sharp from Lewis Grabban, even though their penalty records are fairly similar, is I think that Billy Sharp's got a lot better in his later years, whereas Grabban seems to have got a little bit worse, if that makes sense. If we look at how his penalty misses are spread out, since the 18-19 season, he's only missed 1 penalty. Since 2016-17, he's only missed 2 penalties, and he has been putting them away really consistently since that. So there are a few misses on the record with Billy Sharp, but I am confident with him hitting the back of the net from a penalty, I must say. Ben Brereton Diaz next up, 7 penalties scored, just the 1 penalty missed. Not really got all too much of a track record. He's just been given the responsibility this season as Blackburn's main penalty taker, but has dispatched them all fairly confidently. So I'd say I'm confident with Ben Brereton stepping up to the spot. Next then for Middlesbrough's Andras Sporar. Now, if I'm basing it on this season alone, alone, then I'm confident in him hitting the back of the net. He's scored each of the 3 penalties that he's been given for Middlesbrough this season, but does have 7 penalty misses to his name over his entire career, with 20 goals from the penalty spot. I think with that track record in mind, I'm probably a little bit 50-50 on Sproul. We've not had the biggest sample size in terms of English football and the penalties that he's taken, but he has, to be fair, scored each of them. So maybe next season with 3 more penalty goals, I'd move him up to I'm confident. But for the time being, with some of those misses in mind, I'm going to put him into the 50-50 category. And last up then for Jed Wallace, who I've probably done a little bit of a flip of my opinion on this season, to be honest. He's scored 13 penalties throughout his career, but he's missed 4 of them, and 2 of those penalty misses have come in this season. And we're all about recency bias here over on the Ben HD YouTube channel, and for that reason, I'd have to say that I'm fairly nervous nowadays with Jed Wallace stepping up to the spot, given that he's missed 2 of the penalties that he's taken this season. But as you can see there, that is my list of penalty takers in the Championship and how confident I am with each of them hitting the back of the net. For me personally, I think Daniel Johnson is the best penalty taker in the league. Lyle Taylor's up there, Troy Deeney and Matty Godden as well. To be honest, if we were making it in terms of a top 5, in terms of my top 5 penalty takers, then I would put Collin Woodrow probably into that top category there. Got a really good record for Barnsley from the penalty spot. So that right there, I think, is what I'm going to settle on in terms of Championship penalty takers. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this one though in the comments down below. Do you agree, disagree with where I've put a player from your club? There we have it though, guys. This one was just for a little bit of fun really, but I want to know, how confident are you in your penalty taker and hitting the back of the net? If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Apart from that, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.